Hello, everybody. First of all, I am humbled that all of you are spending a few minutes with us this afternoon. I wanted to spend this next 30 minutes to talk about something that is not very technical. So for those of you who actually came in expecting us to talk about like deep learning or machine learning, you'll be disappointed. But it's also on a set of topics that I think is very important for us as a society. So I want to talk about the business of AI. What is the business of AI? And tie it to some of the work that Salesforce has done right, over the last few years as we enter into this space. So to start off, I want to, of course, whenever we wanted to investigate something so impactful on the society, I want to understand the perspective of some of the smartest people in the world. As maybe a question for the audience. Who, in your opinion, is the smartest person in the world today? Someone say Watson. Anyone else? Einstein? Well, that depends on what we meant by the smartest person today, right? Einstein is dead. So I have heard, at least a few of you, said this guy. Hopefully everybody know who he is, right? In many ways, Stephen Hawking, the way that he's able to communicate with us is because he's able to use some of the things that we are going to talk about this afternoon, AI, in other words, in order to communicate. Now, a few months ago, the BBC interviewed him, and the headline coming out from that interview was about AI. And does anyone know Stephen Hawking's opinion on AI? Okay, someone say negative. It's not quite correct. It's actually a lot worse than that. He said this: AI is going to be the end of mankind. We don't want that, at least for this, not for this afternoon. So, as what academics do, right, as what researchers do, let's ask for some diversity of opinion here. Okay. Now that we have heard from the smartest person in the world, let's now hear from, what am I going to say? So I don't quite understand the laughter here. I wanted to say, let's now hear from the most respected person in the world. Is that what you mean? Is that why there's this laughter? So it turns out the respect here is very much due if you take a look at the dates of this report. For those of you who were watching the news in the last few days, I would be surprised if this report was not produced after October 28 of last year, when the Comey stuff came out. So this is a report commissioned by the Office of the US President on the impacts of AI, okay? So because it is October 2016, we should probably think it is pretty well done. It may be even better done today, but I don't know. I'm not going to make that comment. Now, what does this report say? Among many things, I want to focus on one area, which is what is the impact of AI on the economy? Well, from this report, very well documented, all of you should go and dig it up and read it. Anyone read it, by the way? Anyone? Okay, so a few of you, that's excellent. So I want to focus on a few positives and a few negatives. So on the positive side, AI, as found by the Office of the US President, said, well, it is creating skilled jobs for the economy, right? Just take a look at this room. Many of you are results of us having able to create this industry called AI. It is creating productivity growth, right? In addition to creating jobs, it is lifting what economists call the production possibility frontier, right? Whatever that means. It essentially means it makes everybody more productive, given the same constant set of controls on labor and materials and so on. And lastly, it is generating wealth, right? So the number of AI companies in this area, right, is a testament to some of the wealth creation. And if you take a look at from the year, I think 1993 or 1983 to about 2007 or 2013 or so, the GDP impact of AI, according to this research, right, across the top 13 countries of the world, is roughly 0.4% of overall GDP. Which, if you actually think about it, it is amazing. 0.4% of the overall growth of GDP in the world. So all that is great, right? So this is why we should all be fanboys and fangirls of AI. Now, this report also pointed out a few negatives. AI, as we know it, as many of us fear, right, about the robot, the attack of the automation, definitely kill jobs. And according to a recent McKinsey report that I'll refer to a little bit later, roughly 5% of jobs in the US today is directly under threat because of the automation that are enabled by AI, machine learning, and all the stuff that many of you are creating. In addition, right, even though it is creating productivity growth, the way to get there is it requires a substantive segment of the US population, a world population, to get retrained, right? Because not everybody can use this stuff. And lastly, even though it creates wealth, it also drives down wages. So I want to spend a few minutes, right, to look at the doom and gloom of this report, the negatives. And why is it that AI, as much as we love it, potentially have problems for us as a society? So let's take a look at some of the most exciting topics in AI these days. So first topic, driverless cars, right? So probably many of you, right, have either tried or have friends who worked in driverless cars companies. So driverless cars, as many of us know, is going to eliminate, potentially make redundant, millions of jobs here in the US and worldwide, right? If you are an Uber driver today, if you're a taxi driver today, you are under threat. Second topic, virtual assistant, right? So earlier today, I met a few very interesting people during lunch who worked on Amazon Echo and all that. So in many ways, virtual assistant is directly competing with many of the millions of people that are working on assistant tasks or clerical tasks. Third topic, chatbot, right? The hottest toy in AI these days, among the many. So chatbot, for those who tried it, is pretty good. But what happened to those service reps on the phone that are making $10 an hour? Are many of them going to be under threat as we in this room develop the next generation chatbots? Process automation. So this morning, the Amazon guy, right, who came in, I don't remember his name, right, showed us this incredible set of robots that can, basically automate the entire workflow within a warehouse. What he is showing you is super cool, but what he didn't tell you is the many people who otherwise would have gotten a job probably didn't get one, thanks to those robots. So when we add up these millions of people that are impacted, no wonder there is a fear of AI, right? In addition to many of the benefits that AI has. So how do we think about this? So I spent a few years at Google, and I know a few of you came from Google. One of the most respected executive at Google, Kai-Fu Lee, who recently, started a venture firm in China, spoke about this problem 2 days ago. How many of you saw that article or heard him speak, right? So a few of you. And so it made it to the headline of TechCrunch and a number of major publications in the Valley. He predicts that AI will probably replace 50% of human jobs. 50%. And yet, he also said he believes AI will create a huge amount of wealth for mankind and wipe out poverty. How are you going to wipe out poverty by making 50% of the jobs redundant? Well, let's explore that. Maybe that is possible. So let's take a historical context. So this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in the US. And this is since the last Great War, 1948, to roughly, well, to 2 days ago, yesterday morning when I put this slide. And we're looking at the unemployment rate in the US, fluctuating from 1948 all the way to now. And what we're looking at is what economists call business cycles, right? And every few years, unemployment rates would dip and it would come back up. All of us would like to correlate, right, such cycles because our favorite candidate is in the office. And so let's take a look at 2017, which is where we are today. It is not so far-fetched, right? The unemployment rate came out yesterday, right? We all saw it actually dipped again to, I think, 4.7%, which is fantastic news. But it is not so far-fetched to believe that the next cycle, is this showing up? I'm not sure if my little bar is showing up, is probably going to dip back up again with the US unemployment rate. Now, we can no longer blame the Democrats being in office for that recession. So the only other blame that can go around nowadays is probably AI. So let's take a look, right? Let's look over the news over the next few years to see if that is the case. Now, this is a very simplistic view of the world. So when we have something so simplistic, we want to pay the big guns to help us explain, right, what is going on. So it turns out McKinsey and Company, over the last few months, have released, I think, a very impactful report about the nature of automation and AI on job growth and the nature of work in general. And among the many interesting statistics, I pulled this one chart. So this chart requires some explanation. The x-axis is the hourly wage of workers, right? So the more left that you are, indicates you are probably more minimum wage. The more to the right you are, the more highly paid you are, right? Many people in this room, for example. And then the y-axis here represents the percentage of your work that is likely automatable, right? So for example, file clerks, you would imagine, right, back 20, 30 years ago, a lot of those work can be done today, right, by the many excellent desktop applications that you have. At the same time, right, one of the non-obvious points is not every low-wage work has highly repeatable work. For example, landscaping and groundkeeping and so on, it's actually not very repeatable. But even though they are paid very, very low, it has to do with other economic factors, such as the supply of labor. And then for chief executives, right, of all people, you would imagine this is a guy who is so highly paid, how could this person's job be repeatable? Well, in this case, the example that was cited, a chief executive actually sometimes pull a lot of reports, do a lot of Excels, and some of those reporting could probably be repeated by machines, right? So a lot of the AI companies in the Valley are attacking some of those insight-driven reporting. So the point of this slide is this. So the McKinsey group, right, fortunately they didn't charge us for this report, right, is released to the world. What the role of automation and AI is on jobs is more about changing the nature of work rather than wholesale eliminating jobs. Over time, as we automate more nature of work that are automatable, it frees up labor to work on more creative and less repeatable work. So let me make this very clear with a slightly different example. This guy is the CEO of Micronet. The picture is taken in 1979. And this is when the fear, the last time around, that computers will take away jobs hit the world. So last year, there was a very interesting article that came out in the Atlantic. And it's written by academic James Besson from University of Boston. And it's talk about the automation paradox. The thesis of this paradox is that automation changes the nature of work, but it actually increases the number of jobs that requires automation. So to illustrate, so this academic did many, many years of study and put up some US Census data. And this is one of the many pieces of data that turned out to be very interesting. So over the last 20, 30 years, if you take a look at the percentage of job growth of jobs that requires automation versus, or that require some interaction with computer, over the last 20, 30 years, those jobs that involve more automation actually grew faster. Right? Think about the IT field as an example. It actually did not take away jobs, but it changes the nature of jobs, and it in fact enlarges the possibility that more use cases are opened up because it is cheaper to do certain things. So one of the examples here that was given in the article was, think about bank teller. Right? Many of us who went through some sort of undergraduate schooling in the US, right? Bank tellers were the primary examples that was given about job elimination. Let me ask you today, since 1980s to today, do you think there are fewer bank tellers, or do you think that there are more bank tellers? So the answer is there are more. And the reason there are more, according to this economist, is because bank tellers' automatable job is so much easier to do and cheaper, it changes the dynamics of the banking industry to create more opportunities to interact with customers. Now, whether you buy the cost and effect of this, right, is another story, but it's a very interesting hypothesis. So with that as a backdrop, I want to talk about Salesforce for a second. How do we think about in Salesforce AI, the nature of work, and how do we contribute a more positive impact on the world? So if you take a look at, I did not create this slide, right? This is clearly created professionally by some of my colleagues. Over the last 20, 30 years, right, in the 1970s, there are probably hundreds of thousands of mini computers. Great. And then in the 1980s, right, the Bill Gates era, there are probably tens of millions of computers. And in the last 10 years, as many of us who have mobile phones can attest, there are now today 6 billion such mobile devices that we are all carrying. And it's projected, depending on whether you talk to Forrester or Gartner, we're probably going to have 75 billion smart devices by the end of 2020. So what we are seeing is this secular shift toward a more connected world. At the bottom, so if we think about what's the opportunity, right, for entrepreneurs here, is we are behind everything, every smart thing there is, right? We want to take a look at what are the consumers that we are touching. So for the consumer world, the B2C world, it is very clear. Google, using machine learning, right, has really changed how we do search, information discovery. In the case of Apple, many of us who use Siri, right, or Echo, natural language processing, which is a very esoteric domain just 20 years ago, is now in the pockets of many of us. Amazon. If you've ever been to Amazon.com, right, you are being served by AI, right? The entire page is basically customized based on your behavior. If you are a Facebook user, or if you're familiar with the ImageNet project, the advances in deep learning to help us recognize faces is unbelievable, actually surpassing what a human being can do. So in the B2C world, it is not a question anymore that AI is transforming how we live. Now in the B2B world, this is the world that Salesforce and many of us have operated in. It is also changing how we operate as a society. Those of us who heard about the Einstein launch from Salesforce, we are enabling almost every single interaction that you have with Salesforce products enabled by AI. So I want to share a little bit about how we think about this problem. The problem for many businesses is that AI is sexy, but in order to get AI right, there are a boatload of crap you have to deal with in order to actually do it well. And most businesses, unless you are a multinational with a deep pocket, is simply not your core competence. So I'm going to pull a NIPS paper, right, published by a couple of former colleagues from Google, that looks at when we build a machine learning system, the core of what are the algorithm, the sexy part, right, the deep learning, the decision tree and all that, is usually a very small part of what actually make an AI system work. There's a whole lot of other stuff around data collection, configuration, feature extraction, curation, etc., that are the plumbing, if you may, that require specialized expertise. Even if you are a shop full of data scientists, you simply don't have the chops to actually get the rest of it right. So with that in mind, the approach that Salesforce is taking to Einstein, right, our approach to AI for everyone, is inspired by our mascot, Einstein. Einstein said, creating simplicity from complexity can change how we see the world. Right, this is epitomized by an equation, the only equation I will ever have in this slide deck, that all of you know. Even though many of us don't actually know what it means, but we all can recite, right? E equal to mc squared. It is so simple, and yet it explains almost everything. So if that is the case, the way that Salesforce approach AI, and I'm going to tie it back to the societal impact in a second, is we want to make it so simple that it is really three things. It's the Salesforce platform, the most trusted business platforms, in our opinion, on the market, plus a lot of AI expertise, plus a lot of proprietary, unique data that is only available on Salesforce. The combination of these three creates the world's smartest CRM. So that's the premise behind the approach that Salesforce has toward AI. In the traditional approach to AI, for those of you who are data science in the room, there's a lot of stuff you need to get going, right? Just like my previous slide showing the Google NIPS paper. There is the data sampling, there's a feature extraction, there's a training, there's validation, and so on. When you use AI in the Salesforce platform, we make it is a one-step process. You log in, we provide auto ML, auto machine learning, that automatically extracts the features, select the best model for you, and give you the insight that you can use to work actions to help you succeed with your customer. So that's our overall premise. So Einstein, in many ways, for those of you who has heard about the Salesforce platform called a customer success platform, it is built as an integral part of the overall platform, impacting every report very soon, impacting every decision that we recommend to you. And so to make this super clear, whether you're using any of the 8 clouds that we have, Sales Cloud, Community Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Commerce Cloud, there are AI-generated reports and features that you are using that you don't even know it is AI. In many ways, we are trying to make AI as democratized to everyone as possible. Now, why is that important? So I'm going to skip a couple of slides. There are about data lakes and stuff like that. I want to give you some customer examples on how we are impacting the world. So, and tie it to some of the work that we have just talked about on impacting the world in a positive way. So US Bank is one of the bank here in the US, naturally. And their team have been using our Sales Cloud Einstein for the past year. And what the US Bank is telling us is by making some of the targeting of what products to offer to what clients as they walk through the door better, each of the tellers and each of the bankers is able to offer better services to the client in a more effective way. As a result, what we are doing for the US bank is we are upgrading the skills of every banker without having each banker having to learn AI. And so tying it back to the changing nature of work, set of slides that I showed you earlier, what we are hoping to do here in Salesforce is not to try to make everyone a data scientist, but instead is to make data scientists so democratized so as to make each user of Salesforce able to take advantage of the benefit of AI without learning the AI. So I'm going to skip through a few slides here. I'm running just a few minutes behind here. Similarly, here is a company that sells skis, skis.com. This is one of our Commerce Cloud customer. Commerce Cloud today, if you're a Commerce Cloud customer, we are helping you to make your e-commerce website as personalized as if Amazon is behind every recommendation when you go into Amazon.com. So what we're doing here is we are leveling the playing field. Even though you are just skis.com and you don't have the expertise of machine learning and deep learning that Amazon has or Google has or Facebook has, by using Sales Cloud from Salesforce here or using Commerce Cloud from Salesforce, we are able to help your customer have a customized experience as they log into skis.com, as if you have the very best data scientists helping you tweak those recommendations, changing the nature of work. Salesforce has changed business models of how to sell software for many, many years. We are changing our technology model of building SaaS products and making it available to anyone with a browser access. Recently, we have launched Trailhead. Right, for those who can see me in the front, we are trying to make everyone to become a trailblazer, right? Very much in tune with our Trailhead theme, by making the entire enabling learning platform for free. If you go to trailhead.salesforce.com, you can learn everything to make your business be as successful as possible with AI or without AI, without having to pay anybody anything. So to conclude, I want to just bring up someone that some of you may know. Who is this guy? This is Mark Benioff, right, our boss here at Salesforce. A couple years ago, Forbes or Fortune magazine interviewed him about what does he think Salesforce is about. And this really underscores the overall ethos of the company. And Mark said something that is truly remarkable. He said, the business of business is improving the state of the world. We don't have shareholders, or at least we don't think of them as the people that are telling us how we should be improving our products, but we have many stakeholders that we hold ourselves accountable to. And so I would like to borrow from Mark's quote and ask the question, or rephrase the statement. Maybe the business of AI should really be about improving the state of the world. And it is much less about making anyone rich or making that conversion rate higher or making that click-through rate higher. I think this is a much more empowering and motivating statement than many that we are likely going to hear. So I hope with that as the final statement, the business of AI is about improving the state of the world. I want to take this opportunity and thank you for your attention.